Hola chavos! Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of How to Learn Spanish. My name is Levi Flint, and in this episode today, we are going to talk about the Pomodoro Method. Okay? Before we dive into the Pomodoro Method though, I just wanted to do a quick recap of the previous episode. So in the previous episode, we talked about the importance of listening. Okay, and that, in my opinion, is the very best first step that you can take is just to begin listening to real Spanish. And again, it can be if it's just somebody speaking directly to you, so like listening to the news or a news podcast, or listening to Spanish conversation in Spanish immersion type of podcasts. Not necessarily podcasts that are just made for learners, but it can also just be entertaining Mexican podcast or entertaining podcast from Spain, whatever you're trying to focus on. Also, telenovelas and the news, like news channels, Univision, Telemundo, things like that. All of those are great sources of listening. And something I didn't talk about in last episode was really the importance of, number one, of focusing in on one dialect. I mentioned it, but I didn't stress this enough. And at the same time, I don't want to do an entire episode just on this topic. So I'll mention it again. It's super, super important to pick one dialect when learning Spanish. And again, this actually goes against what a lot of Spanish teachers teach. In fact, in most schools, teachers are required to teach a diverse array of Spanish dialects and culture. And, you know, there's a little bit of a politics behind that, I think, as well. They don't want to discriminate from any culture. At the same time, they want to have it be an all-encompassing type of class that is touching on, you know, because the Hispanic culture is very rich in that it is very diverse, as there's a lot of differences between cultures and between the dialects of Spanish that's being used. And it is actually very, very it's fascinating when you get into the nitty-gritty of all that. But in reality, if you're a complete beginner, you want life to be as simple as possible. And that's why I always advocate for focusing in on one dialect, okay? And in this case, I like to focus on Spanish, or on Spanish, you think? On Mexican Spanish. Mexican Spanish, for me personally, makes a lot of sense. I'm from the United States. I'm from the state of Texas. I've lived in Arizona. I like Mexico. I've spent a lot of time down in Mexico over the years. It's the closest Latin American country that we have in the U.S. There's more Mexicans in the United States than any other Hispanic nationality. So, you know, it makes a lot of sense. It does. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I'm married to a Mexican, so that's kind of important, right? But yeah, so that for me is the core reason why I push Mexican Spanish. Last reason for that too is because with Mexican Spanish, you have, I would say, like, Mexico City is one of the capitals of Spanish language media in the entire world. It's probably the biggest here in 2021. I think before it probably was like Madrid in Spain. Still, it's a very important center, but Mexico City has an enormous influence. And also, if you're in the United States, lots of stuff is being made out of cities like Miami, Houston, Los Angeles, and all of that has Mexican influence. Well, Miami also has other influences, but you get the point. There's a lot of media, a lot of content, a lot of news, a lot of movies and series are made in Mexico and Mexico City in particular. So it's also a great reason to focus in on that. I think it makes life really simple, or more simple than it would be otherwise when you're trying to juggle all the different accents and dialects and vocabulary. So focus in on one. It's going to make your life a little easier. All right, cool. Let's get into the Pomodoro Method. So the Pomodoro Method is pretty simple. But it is definitely worth noting here in an entire podcast episode. I think it's worth focusing on because with the Pomodoro Method, what you are doing is it is giving you a system for study. So you're going to set, all it is, if you've never heard of it before, and I'll share it here on my computer screen, and then in a second I'll share on my phone an app that you can use to use this method. So let me actually do a little record here. Okay, so this is a website that I really like. It's called Pomodoro Timer, and as you see, the Pomodoro Method is simply a 25-minute timer where you are going to study, or in this case right now at this point in time, we're going to be doing our listening for 25 minutes at a time. Boom, we set our timer, countdown begins. All right, the whole idea of the Pomodoro Method is that you're going to be doing something focused, uninterrupted, ideally, for 25 minutes at a time. And then whenever you're done, you're taking your short break for 5 minutes. So 25 minutes might seem kind of random, but the whole idea is that you're doing it, and then you take your 5-minute break, making a total of 30 minutes. So a half hour dedicated to, in this case, at this point in time, listening. Okay? So that's the Pomodoro Method. So this is a great website that I like to use called Pomodoro Timer. And that's if you're online on your computer. Here, I'll pull this up on my phone. Something I really like to use on my phone, and I use it actually every day, is called Be Focused. And they have a free version, and you can get the Be Focused Pro for like $3, and it's just better. No ads, no bugs, no weird stuff. So click on that, and you can put in here different tasks, different things you wanna focus on and study and focus on and do or study. So I have Spanish right here, and you see the exact same thing, 25 minutes. So I'm gonna set my 25-minute timer, and perfect. And then whenever that is complete, it will ring or buzz, and then you have a 5-minute break, and you can actually come in and change the settings too. To different things. So you can add new tasks, you can track your progress, you can change up the work intervals. So if you don't like 25 minutes, you can change it you can make your own personal Pomodoro be 15 minutes or something else. And also you can change your breaks as well. So you can have a short break, a long break, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, that is it for what the Pomodoro is. Now, here's a little bit of my recommendation on how to use it. So at this stage, you're just starting out. Maybe you've dabbled with Duolingo. Maybe you've tried other things. But my recommendation at this point is you're doing a lot of listening on a daily basis, and the Pomodoro Method will help ensure that not only are you doing your listening on a daily basis, but that you're doing it for a reasonable amount of time. And that is going to be a total of about 30 minutes. So if you can get in 2 Pomodoros per day, and you're just doing it while you're doing some chores, while you're driving, while you're out exercising, walking your dog, etc., that 30 minutes to an hour is going to add up exponentially. So you put in 30 minutes every single day. That's several hours every single week. You put in a little bit more than that. Clearly, it's going to make quite a difference in your overall level of comprehension and just general kind of getting used to. And also allowing the language to begin processing in your mind. And you'll see the effects of that later down the road. But that's the whole idea, is it's going to help hold you accountable, it's going to help keep you focused, and it's going to help keep you organized, which is super, super important. All three of those things are super important when you're trying to learn Espanol or any language in reality. So the idea of it is to keep you organized, to keep you consistent, and hopefully to hold you accountable to daily study, daily focus. That's it. I think that's all I have for the Pomodoro Method. I definitely I beat that horse or what is the expression? To beat a dead horse? Yeah, I beat the dead horse over and over again. So if you have any questions about this though, you can always leave comments over at YouTube where I post these videos. Right now I'm posting these at MexicanFluency.com and Mexican Fluency's YouTube channel. That is all we have for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, this podcast is available on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on YouTube. And if you want to find out more about what I'm doing in the Spanish teaching world, make sure to check out my website at MexicanFluency.com. Muchas gracias, chicos. Nos vemos muy pronto. Hasta el próximo episodio.